worship God together this morning.
Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Live for you. Sing holy. And holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are, and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. Sing worthy. Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you, Jesus. Jesus, the name above every other name. And Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Live for you. And holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are, and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. And holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are, and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. My hope is found here on holy ground. Here I bow down. Here I bow down. Here, arms open wide. Here, you saved my life. Here I bow down. Here I bow. Here, my hope is found here on holy ground. Here I bow down. Here I bow down. Here, arms open wide. Here, you saved my life. Here I bow down. Here I bow. At the cross, I surrender my life. I'm in awe of you. I'm in awe of you. Where your love ran and my sin washed white. I owe all to you. I owe all to you. Jesus. There's a place where sin and shame are powerless, where my heart has peace with God and forgiveness, where all the love I've ever found comes like a flood, comes flowing down. At the cross, I surrender my life. I'm in awe of you. I'm in awe of you. Where your love ran and my sin washed white. I owe all to you. I owe all to you. And here my hope is found here my sin washed white. I owe all to you. I owe all to you at the cross, at the cross, at the cross. I surrender my life. I'm in awe of you. I'm in awe of you. Where your love ran red and my sin washed white. I owe all to you. I owe all to you. I owe all. I owe all to you. I owe all to you, Jesus. Come thou fount of every blessing, tune my heart to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, calls for songs of loudest praise. Teach me some melodious sonnet sung by flaming tongues above. Praise the mount I'm fixed upon it, mount of thy redeeming love. Here I raise my Ebenezer, hither by thy help I'm come, and I hope by thy good pleasure safely to arrive at home. Jesus sought me when a stranger, wandering from the fold of God, he to rescue me from danger interposed his precious blood. Oh, to grace, how great a debtor daily I'm constrained to be. Let thy goodness, like a fetter, bind my wandering heart to thee. Prone to wander, Lord, I feel it, prone to leave the God I love. Here's my heart, Lord, take and seal it for thy courts above. Oh, love, I adore your name above. Oh, love, tune my heart to sing your praise above all. Love, I adore your name above all. Love, tune my heart to sing your praise above all else. I adore your name above all else. Tune my heart to sing your praise above Here's my heart, Lord, take and seal it for thy courts above.
This morning, we are introducing the third focus of our Pursue series. For the next 3 months, we will be tackling how we can pursue a purposeful life. We encourage you to journey with us to explore God's plan for you, and it is our hope for you to know that you are not an accident. You have a purpose. Today, Pastor Lou will be diving into John chapter 21, verse 18 to 22. Let's read this together. Jesus reinstates Peter. Very truly, I tell you, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go. Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. Then he said to him, "Follow me." Peter turned and saw that the disciple whom Jesus loved was following them. This was the one who had leaned back against Jesus at the supper and had said, "Lord, who is going to betray you?" When Peter saw him, he asked, "Lord, what about him?" Jesus answered, "If I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? You must follow me." This morning, Pastor Lou's message to us is titled Barriers to a Purposeful Life.
Hey everyone, good to see you online again. And I certainly do miss the time we spend together in person, and we hope and pray that that is going to come up sometime soon, but we don't want to rush it. We want to be safe when we do that, and we don't want to rush into doing it and have to reverse it again in the worst case because we have an outbreak. We certainly don't want to see that. We're starting a new month and a new quarter. This is July, and we're entering into a new topic. We have been going through this year 4 key themes. We went through vulnerability and relationships, and in this quarter, in the next 3 months, we're going to be going over a new topic, which is purpose. And then in October to December, we'll go over the topic of joy. Now, talking about purpose, this seems to be a very fitting topic these days, because there is so much emphasis in our society right now on taking up a cause. And that is all about having a purpose for our lives. But having a purpose, we have to discern very important things, because there are good purposes and there are bad purposes. There are important purposes. There are trivial purposes. There are beneficial purposes. There are destructive purposes. There are loving purposes, and there can also be hateful and evil purposes. It's important to know how. And we're going to go through our discipleship steps of talking about purpose, of what do we have to deny in ourselves, in us as an organization, and us as a group, in order to be able to take up the right purpose, the good purpose, the loving purpose. Then we're going to go into how do we take up that purpose? How do we figure out what that is? How do we embrace that purpose, even though it will feel like it's very difficult? And we might even run away from that purpose. And then finally, to talk about how do we actually follow Jesus in living out that purpose? And that's roughly what's going to be the 3 months of July, August, and September. Okay? Talking to people about purpose. It is a very difficult subject for some. There are some people who say that I don't have a purpose, or even that I don't care about having a purpose. But when I talk to them more, what I discover is that what they really mean is that they don't find a purpose that they like. They don't find a purpose that they find worthwhile. So they might react with saying, I don't have a purpose for life. Or they might react with simply saying, I don't care if I have a purpose. It's not that they don't care. I think we all like to have a purpose for our lives. We all like to have meaning for the time we spend on earth. However, sometimes it can feel like it's hard to see what that purpose is for us. It is hard to find something that we feel is worthwhile as a purpose. And so we end up saying, I don't have one, or I don't care about a purpose. It's really about finding one. And the reason why a lot of times we don't find one is because there are barriers that stops us from having that purpose revealed, from having that purpose emerge in our lives. There's a story about two people talking, and they're both looking at a very large rock, and they're staring at it, and the first one says to the second one, what do you see when you look at this rock? And the second one looks at it carefully from all angles, walks right around it, and then he comes up with the answers, I don't see anything but a rock. What do you see then? The first person then says, yeah, you know what I see? I see a lion. And that other fellow says, how do you see a lion in this? It turns out that the second person is a sculptor. When he looks at a rock, instead of looking at what is there, he always looks at what he can chisel away. What is extra that should not be there? What can he use his chisel to get rid of? And once he gets rid of them, what remains will be something beautiful. And he says, in this rock, after I look at what can be chiseled away, what I see is a beautiful, majestic lion. I understand that for some people who are into fitness, like bodybuilders and other people really into fitness, that they actually also think of their bodies that way. If they chisel away all the stuff that shouldn't be there, then what remains is a beautiful body. Well, looking at myself, I guess if I can chisel away many parts that I don't like, then yes, indeed, what would remain there may very well be something good, right? And now, perhaps that is the same with our purpose in life. If we can chisel away the things that should not be there, if we can take away the barriers to us having a purposeful life, then indeed we would have a purposeful life. That indeed, when the things that should not be there are taken away, then a beautiful purpose will indeed emerge out of our lives. Let's pray before we go on. Father, we thank you for this time together. And again, we come to look to you, not to the preacher. We come to look to what you have to say to us. And Lord, there is so much that we need to learn today about purpose and about the barriers that should be taken away to reveal something beautiful, even reveal the image of Christ in the purpose in our lives. Father, may you show us. May you reveal things to us today. In Jesus' name, amen. Indeed, like I prayed, when we've chiseled away the things that should not be there, a right purpose should remain. And in fact, hopefully, the purpose that the world will see, that we ourselves will get to see in us, and other people will see, is actually the image of Christ in those purposes. And so what we might do is also compare and take a look at how, maybe not so much the word compare, but because you'll find out why I don't want to use the word compare, to learn from Jesus. To learn from Jesus and understand how he allowed his purpose to emerge in his life. But also, we get a good example from what Jesus did with Peter, which is the main characters in our in the passage that we read earlier. And I want to share with us 3 things that came out of that passage. There are 3 things to chisel away, and they all start with C. Happens, so I don't usually try to make these make these things all match, but they happens to all start with C. Okay, we want to chisel away today our cares, our control, and our comparisons. Those are the 3 things that can be barriers to us finding and living a purpose. So our cares, our control, and our comparisons. Let's first start with our cares. What are our cares? Our cares are the things that we just can't stop thinking about. Our cares are our things, our concerns, things that we put too much emphasis on in life. That's why there's a song that says, I cast all my cares onto God. I cast all my cares at God's feet because I don't need to hold on to them. So those are the cares. What are they? Well, our cares are the things that we fear losing. Or rather, it's the fear itself. It's the fear of losing the things that we care about. It's the fear of loss, and ultimately, it's the fear of losing life. It is the fear of death. And that's what brings us anxiety. You've heard me say before, Jewish rabbi have said that all of our fears ultimately is because of our fear of death. Whatever we fear to lose, ultimately is because we fear to lose life. Right? And that's what causes all of our anxiety, actually. And this is what Jesus addresses with Peter. You see, Jesus in this passage, right before that, had actually told Peter, he had restored Peter. He had said, Peter, do you love me? 3 times. And Peter says, yes, I love you 3 times. And each time, Jesus follows up with, feed my sheep, or a variation of that. Basically, feed my sheep, take care of take care of the believers, take care of the people, right? That was to be his purpose. But Jesus knew that there were barriers in that purpose for him. Jesus knew that. And that's why he has these conversations, this follow-up conversation recorded by John about the barriers. Jesus wants to make sure that he helps Peter take those barriers away so that he can indeed embrace and fulfill this purpose. There are things that Peter needed to deny in order to fully take a hold of the good purpose for his life. And so, Jesus says to him a number of things. I want to pick out the first one of the things first. And what he says in verse 19. He says something about him. I'll come back to that, actually. The first thing that he says is actually about control, but I want to take the one about death first, about fear first, and then come back to control. Right after he talks about something that was kind of hard to understand, but then verse 19 says, Jesus said all that about Peter having to stretch out his hand and someone else will dress him and lead him to a place where he doesn't want to go. And John here says, Jesus said this in verse 19 to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. And then Jesus says, follow me. The death by which Peter would glorify God. And then Jesus says, follow me. Clearly, Jesus is referring to follow him, just like how Jesus died on the cross. And that wasn't an easy thing. In Gethsemane, Jesus struggled with that barrier himself because he thought, Father, if you can take it away, take this cup of suffering away from me. Come up with another way of doing this, of saving everyone. Come up with another way, and I will take that other way. I will gladly take that other way. But in the end, Jesus said, your will be done. And he's reminding Peter, he said, follow me. Yes, you're going to die, and you're afraid of death. You're afraid of losing your life. But follow me. Instead of focusing on what you would lose, all the way leading up to losing your life and including losing your life, focus on something else. This is the way by which your death will glorify God, just like Jesus' death glorified God. And remember, I think we've talked about what the word glorifying means. Glorifying means it brings out, it makes obvious the goodness of God's character. And on the cross, there's a number of things, certainly love, forgiveness, that's all shown, right? That goodness of God's glory, that goodness of God's character is shown to us by how Jesus died. And Jesus is saying, Peter, you're going to follow me, and you're going to lose stuff, and in the end, you're going to lose your life. But don't let the loss, don't let the fear of the loss bother you so much. Instead, remember to make your loss worth something. Make your loss worth something by making your loss of life, by making your death glorify God. That would make it worthwhile. That would make it a worthwhile purpose. And that's what Jesus was telling Peter. You see, for us all, it's the same. When I talk to people about their purpose, there's a number of people who came with the same answers. What they said was, I don't have a purpose. But in fact, they actually do. They actually spend a lot of their energy in life on one thing. Quite a few people I know have this in common. And they spend an enormous amount of energy in their lives to avoid what's bad, to avoid loss, to avoid bad things happening. They spend all of their energies, much of it, if not all of it, to avoid the bad things, to the point where they don't have any time, mind share, they don't have any time, they don't have any energy, they don't have any emotions left to invest into living what is good. See what I'm saying? They spend all of their energy to avoid what is bad instead of living what is good. They do have a purpose, except their purpose is not one that they like very much. And the same with all of us. If we spend all of our time, and we all spend some time avoiding the bad, but if we all spend all of our time avoiding the bad, then we will not be able to have any time left to live what is good. And the fear is what causes us to focus and spend all of our time and emotional energy on avoiding what is bad. That comes out of this fear. And Jesus is saying to Peter, you know what? I know I cannot tell you to stop being afraid. I know I shouldn't tell you that loss is a good thing. Loss is a bad thing, and loss of life is definitely something that's not good. However, Jesus said, instead of trying to avoid it, what you can do is turn towards making it worthwhile. If you're going to lose something, make sure that you lose it for something worthwhile. If you're going to lose your life even, make sure that you lose it for something worthwhile. And notice that once you start to think that way, once you start to realize that, you will not only make your death worthwhile, you will actually make your living worthwhile. And things will change. Things will change from having no purpose, or really having a purpose that we don't like, which is all about avoiding the bad, into having a purpose that is good. Living a new purpose that is worthwhile. And he wanted to make sure that Peter and us and we all understand that. Instead of avoiding loss, we make each of our losses worth something. And if we can do that, if we can deny the fear of loss and instead face the loss head on, upcoming losses, not just past losses, but upcoming losses too. Face upcoming losses head on and make sure that whatever loss is done is suffered in such a way that it is worthwhile. And when we do that, a beautiful purpose will emerge. When we chisel away our cares, the beauty of Jesus' purpose will emerge in our lives. The second thing that we can chisel away is control. You see, we like to control our lives, and it can be hard for us to let go of it. Jesus knew that this would be the temptation of Peter as well, and it is the temptation of all of us. Even if Peter accepts that his destination, his final destination, is to give his life to feed the sheep and to sacrifice himself just as Jesus did, he would still have another problem. And that's why Jesus says this. Right after saying, "Feed my sheep," the third time, he says to Peter, "I tell you the truth. When you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go." He says, Peter, you're going to stretch out your hands, which means someone's going to bind your hands together and lead you to where you do not want to go. And he's going to be captured, he's going to be led to his death. That's what Jesus is talking about. But what he's saying is not only about the final destination. Peter, you may accept that you're going to glorify God in your death, which we talked about earlier, just chiseling away our cares. But you still need to chisel away your control, because you need to let go of your control about how you get there. Even the journey is important. It isn't just about where you get to, but how you get there is important. You see, Peter would struggle with that. That's why Jesus especially mentions that, but it's also for us all to hear, because we would struggle with that too. A lot of times, it's hard enough to figure out where the destination is that God wants us. Wow, to glorify God, that's great. But on the journey there, we might not be willing to give up our control of how we get there. And what happens is, if we can't give up control of how we get there, we think that we can glorify God in the destination, but what we end up doing is not glorifying God on the journey. We start to think along the lines of the ends justifies the means. I want control of the means. As long as the ends is okay, then it's fine. You see, Jesus had already shown us that that's not the way to go. See, the way that he went from Gethsemane all the way to the cross, he demonstrated so much of how he would get there. And how he got there was with humility. There are many examples, what he said in Gethsemane. God's will, Father's will be done instead of his own. Along the way where he stayed silent. And, even right at the end, when he's on the cross, he looks at the people who nailed him to the cross and says, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." But there is an incident in the middle that is even more clear. There's an incident in which people are laughing at him when he's on the cross and challenging him and insulting him, saying, "Hey, if you're really that great, come down from the cross." And the pastor who led me to Christ, whom I'm very grateful for, had said this, and this was years ago, and it still sticks with me, which is, he said, if it was you or me, having the power of Jesus, most likely what we do is we come down from the cross, slap that guy silly, and then go back up on the cross. So the destination, the final mission, will still get accomplished. He dies on the cross for us. But the journey would have been wrong. And Jesus did not come down the cross. You see, if he did, his journey would have been one of selfish pride instead of unconditional love. Jesus is saying, Peter, and to all of us, all followers, the journey is important. With all these protests going on, you can actually see this demonstrated. There's very little disagreement on the fact that fighting police brutality and fighting racism, both at an individual and a systemic level, are good things. The destination is good. But the problem comes not with the destination. The way I see it, the problem comes is with the journey. We want to control the journey to guarantee the outcome. We want the ends to justify the means, and we want to control the means. And many parts who are involved in a very good purpose ends up not being able to chisel away the control, and it undermines the actual purpose. Since the death of George Floyd, Chicago has suffered, linked to the protests, the most violent day in 60 years. 18 people shot and killed in one day and countless injured, linked to the protests. Innocent people have been killed. I know the story of two of them. I don't want to tell them here. I might have mentioned them before. David Dorn and Italian retelling. In Seattle, this supposedly wonderful area where there should be no cops, and the mayor there in Seattle actually said, maybe we'll have a summer of love. That's how she tried to describe it. Many people have been shot. 2 teenagers killed, a 19-year-old and a 16-year-old. We have to give control of the journey to God too. We have to give control of the means to God as well. Peter, someone will bind your hands and lead you where you don't want to go. And the journey, the way by which you go, is also not the way. But that's how we are going. Let's look at a good example of how that happens. Long distance race that became very well known. And the video of its finish actually went viral. Involves two fairly well-known runners. One of them is an Olympic medalist. His name is Abel Mutai, and he's from Kenya. And he was leading the race. The person in the second place is Ivan Fernandez. And the gap between the two of them was one that Ivan Fernandez later said there was no way he could have made up. But about 10 meters from the finish line, he's coming up. He's running behind this other fellow. And he noticed the other fellow kind of pulled up and just started jogging casually. What was evident was that he thought he crossed the finish line. And so he had stopped really running, even though he was only 10 meters away. And like most people, 9 out of 10 people probably would have just run right by and won the race because of the mistake that Abel made. Not Ivan. Ivan Fernandez, noticing what's happening, he starts yelling at the race leader, saying, "Hey, it's you're not done yet. The finish line's still ahead," and he's pointing. You can see it in the video. He's pointing, and there's a picture that I'll show you that should already have come up. And he's pointing, and unfortunately, he's speaking Spanish, and the race leader does not understand Spanish, so that was to no avail. Well, he could have said, "Hey, I tried," and run right by him and win the race. At least I tried to be a good sportsman, right? But no, not Ivan Fernandez. He runs up to the guy and he starts he puts his hand on his shoulder, somewhere in his back, and basically guides him, pushes him forward, and then keep pointing and keep yelling, saying, "Keep running." And in the end, he came in. Ivan Fernandez came in only second, when he could have won the race due to the mistake of the other person. The destination is important. But God reminds us that the journey, how we run the race, is just as important. Let's chisel away control, not just control of the destination. Let's chisel away the control of the journey as well. Give all that to God. And if we can chisel away that control of both the destination and the journey, then a purpose, a wonderful, beautiful purpose will emerge, just as it did in the life of Ivan Fernandez. third thing we need to chisel away are comparisons. Comparisons. It's the third C. You see, this is what happened. After that conversation, Peter turned and saw the disciple whom Jesus loved, and that disciple is following Jesus as well. And that disciple is widely known as John, although it's never named as John. And so Peter turns and says to Jesus, Lord, what's going to happen? What about him? What's going to happen to him? And specifically, it says, what about him? Why would Peter ask such a thing at this time? See, Peter was comparing. Peter, John, and James were in that inner circle out of the 12. It's the closest three. I think Peter was thinking, well, out of the three, am I Jesus' favorite, or is John Jesus' favorite? Am I given the best purpose, best calling, or is John given the best purpose, the best calling for his life? Am I given the easier calling? John given the easier calling? Am I given the more challenging one, or is John? He's comparing, and he goes, what about him? And Jesus' answer made it clear. Jesus' answer was, what about him? What if I were to keep him alive until I come back? What's that to you? You just focus on following me. And that's what we need to do. We need to chisel away that comparison. That comparison gets into the way of so many things. Comparison gets into the way of our own growth and our own purpose. And we need to chisel that away. Don't compare with one another. Don't worry about what someone else's calling is. Don't worry about how they're doing in their calling, in their following God. You follow God. You focus on that. You see, a lot of times that's what happens. We focus on how other people are doing, and we want to criticize how they're doing. When God says, you don't worry about that, just worry about how you're doing instead. We listen to sermons for other people for that reason, because we want to use God's words to criticize someone else, instead of hearing it for ourselves to see how well we're following God ourselves. We compete. In motorsport, you know that car fan, some car races. In motorsport, a lot of times this would happen. It's towards the end of the race. Three cars are very close to each other, and first, second, and third, and the order might change. So all the drivers are fighting as hard as they can. Often, this happens on the last lap, and especially the first and second. They are driving, and the second is trying to find ways of getting by the leader so that he can win the race. And as the two of them are fighting and competing with one another, quite often what happens is that both of them end up slowing down because they're spending all of their energy trying to compete with one another, and the third place guy goes by both of them. That's what happens in life too. That's what happens in life too. A lot of times what happens is that when we are competing with one another, whether it's in a company or in a church, when we are competing with one another, the only people that win are our enemies. Because we've spent all of our energy in comparing and competing with one another instead of fulfilling our purpose, that the enemy goes by us. There's a Chinese proverb. It's about a type of bird called a snipe. A snipe is on a beach, and he finds this great big, huge, juicy clam. And he uses his long beak to try to get the clam. But the clam clams up on the beach, and they're in a dead heat. They're stuck. They're in this deadlock situation. The snipe goes, hey, if it doesn't rain, there's going to be a dead clam on the beach. And the clam goes, hey, if I don't let go, and the clam was so big and so heavy that the snipe could not fly. If I do not let go, there's going to be a dead snipe on the beach. And as they are fighting each other and verbally assaulting each other, a fisherman comes along, grabs both of them, puts them in his net, and goes home. When we us too focused on competing with one another, comparing with one another, instead of what our purpose is. We lose sight of our purpose. Our purpose may not even emerge. Our real purpose gets covered up by this fake purpose of competing with one another and comparing with one another. So unless we chisel away comparisons, then our real purpose will not emerge. So let's summarize with this. There are three things. If we want our purpose to emerge, if we want that purpose to emerge in such a way that people can see the image of Christ in our lives, we need to chisel away three things. We need to deny three things. First, we need to chisel away our cares, things that make us fear, our fear of loss of things in our lives, our fear of loss of life, ultimately. We need to chisel that fear away. We need to chisel that care away. Second thing we need to chisel away is our control. Not only do we need to chisel away our control of what our purpose is, but also how we get there. Chisel away our control not only of the destination, but our control of the journey as well. Only then can we be like someone like Ivan Fernandez, where his journey shows the beauty of a wonderful purpose that is beyond just the destination. And the third, we need to chisel away our comparisons, our competitiveness with others, so that instead of making competitiveness and comparisons our purpose, our real purpose. Father, we thank you. You are the God who loves us. And in your love, you've given us purpose and meaning in our lives. But so often that purpose and meaning is obscured by things that should not be in our lives. Lord, teach us. Be with us as we try to chisel these things away. Help us so that as each one of us chisel those things away, and as we as a church chisel those things away from us, as we get rid of our cares that are based on fear, as we get rid of our control, give you control, as we get rid of our comparisons and competitiveness, that beauty would emerge in our individual lives, but also in the life of this church. We look forward to that, and we look forward to showing that. In Jesus' name.
I've been strong. I've been strong and I've been broken within a moment. I've been faithful and I've been reckless at every bend. I've held everything together and watched it shatter. I've stood tall and I have crumbled in the same breath. I've wrestled and I have wrestled and I have trembled towards surrender. Chased my heart adrift and drifted home again. Plundered blessing till I've been desperate to find redemption. And every time I turn around, Lord, you're still there. And I was found before I was lost. I was yours before I was not. Grace to spare for all my mistakes, and that part just wrecks me. And I know I don't deserve this kind of love. Somehow, this kind of love is who you are. It's a grace I can never add to be somebody you still want. Somehow, you love me as you find me. Who am I? Who am I to think your glory needs my praises? But if this borrowed breath is yours, Lord, take it all. You are faithful and you are gracious, and I'm just grateful to think you don't need a single thing, still you want my heart. And I was found before I was lost. I was yours before I was not. You wear the scars for all my mistakes, and that part just wrecks me. And I know I don't deserve this kind of love. Somehow, this kind of love is who you are. It's a grace I could never add up to be somebody you still want. Somehow, you love me as you find me. You love me as you find me. You love me as you find me. who you are. It's a grace I could never have, to be somebody you still want. Somehow, love me as you find me. Love me as you find me.
It is so good to have been together for our worship today. And I hope that you were blessed by God's word as much as I was as the person who delivers it. As the messenger benefits just as much as the people who are receiving the message. I hope you were blessed by God. And today I want to remind us of something. Something occurred to me that I think we all need a reminder of. And the reminder is that the news cycle does not reflect reality. You see, what happens is the news cycle gets tired of things pretty quickly. And they stop reporting on certain things. But the fact that the news doesn't report on them does not mean that they're not reality. And often when the news stops reporting on certain things, we start to think that those are not problems anymore. And I want to remind us today together to pray for some things that may have kind of gotten out of popularity as far as the news cycle is concerned, but yet we need prayer as much as possible. So we'll pray for certain things in the pandemic that are still very much reality, even though it's not popular in the news cycle. We'll pray for certain things in the protests, in this whole upheaval that is happening still in many countries due to the protests about police brutality and racism, that we still need to pray for, even though it's no longer popular in the news cycle. Okay, so let us bow our heads and lift up those things to our God. Dear God, Heavenly Father, at this time we're still in the pandemic. Although there are far fewer reports, and sometimes we feel a smaller sense of urgency to pray for people who are struggling. We want to recognize here together that there are still many who are struggling, who need your help, Lord, and we're lifting them up to you. There are still people sick, and there are still people getting sick. New cases are still being reported every day. It is so easy for us to forget, just because the numbers are coming down, to forget that every one of those numbers represents a new person who's getting sick, and a possibility that someone else will die from this virus. So Lord, we continue to pray for people who are getting sick, who may be in danger of losing their lives due to the virus. We pray that your healing hand, your comfort will be upon them. We also continue to pray for those working in healthcare. And we continue to remember that there are those of us in our church and those of us connected with our church who are in healthcare. They're continuing to put themselves at risk. We pray for your protection for them. And we continue to pray for those who are struggling in this pandemic. Maybe they're not physically ill, but yet they're struggling with their emotions. They're struggling with isolation. They're struggling with depression. Lord, we pray that your love, your comfort, your hope will reach each one of them. And that if we are the people being sent, that you will indeed stir our hearts and make us stand up and make us reach out to bring your love, your comfort, your hope to the people who are struggling emotionally and mentally. Father, we continue to pray for what's happening in protests. We continue to pray that justice will be done. We continue to pray that things in our society will be changed so that according to your will, that police brutality, that racism, individual or systemic, would be eliminated, or as close to eliminated as possible in this fallen world. We pray that those who are working hard to bring that about will know the right things to do, that not only are they aiming for the right destination, but they are also doing the right things in the journey. And Father, we continue to pray for those victims, not only the victims of police brutality and racism, where millions of people literally are standing for their cause, but we also want to pray for those who are suffering without much attention, those who are the victims of evildoers who might have included themselves with the protests, but those who bring about riots and looting and murders and hurts. We pray for the victims of those evil deeds, that you would be with their families, with them as well, and with their families, so that they would know to turn to you and find hope and comfort, love and goodness in this very imperfect world. We pray for all of us that we would continue to seek to chisel away the things that prevent us from finding and living out our purpose. Father, be with us all. In Jesus' name, Amen.
Thank you for worshiping with us today. And if you'd like to use your gift, talents, or tithe to support our church and our ministry, there are so many ways to do so online. If you want to stay up to date with what's happening, feel free to check us out on our website and follow us on our Facebook page. It's Richmond Hill Free Methodist Church, or you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. We hope to see you guys next week.